Jakelin Caal Maquin could be the name of one of our children in one of our churches in this wonderfully beautiful time of Advent and Christmas. Perhaps one of the angels in our Christmas pageant. Perhaps one of the families lighting our Advent candle wreath. Perhaps one of the children singing, "O come all ye faithful," in the children's choir. Perhaps one of the carolers going with our church and community to the local nursing home to offer joy and love to our senior adults. Jakelin Caal Maquin is one of ours. And sadly, Jakelin Caal Maquin died. For she is the 7-year-old little girl from Guatemala who jumped up and down when her father invited her to travel with her from the place of Guatemala where she and her other 5 siblings lived with her mother and father in deep poverty. Jakelin Caal Maquin traveled those 2,000 miles, in some ways with the excitement and beauty of a child, in some ways with the fear and the anxiousness of a child, in some ways with the hunger and desperation of a child. What was it that led Jakelin Caal Maquin and her father from Guatemala through Mexico to the border and into the desert of New Mexico? It was the same reason that you and I make for a better life, a more secure life for our own children in our own churches. And I believe that every step of that journey, the Holy One was in her midst. And even in the midst of her hunger and her dehydration, and even in the midst of her fear in those last hours, even in the midst of her father holding her hand, giving her words of love in their Mayan dialect, I can imagine, and I know that the Holy One was in their midst. For this, my friends, is what this journey is about of Advent. Parents who loved so deeply their child that had yet been born, that they would forgo the safety and comfort of their own homes and travel by all means, on foot, by a donkey, by a bus, in order to secure safety and hope and a life filled with the goodness in which God had created them. If we do not get the connection of those migrants coming from dangerous places, traveling at all risk and cost to their own lives and to their families' lives, and how it relates to our own sacred story of another couple taking all risks in order to give birth and provide for their newborn child a life worthy of the goodness in which God had created them, then we are missing the whole point of God's love. For we must hear Jesus being born in our midst, of the children who are being detained at the wall, of the children who are in foster care in our own country, of the children who will go to bed hungry this night, of the children who have been abandoned by the opportunities of education and goodness and safety that we hold for our own children in the Christmas pageants of our church. The children who are incarcerated as juveniles are the very children of the Advent Christmas story. They are the Christ child, and if we don't get that correlation, then we have no worth to claim ourselves as followers of the Christ way. We are at a critical moment, for we must hear that the Holy One is in our midst, not just in the Christmas pageants and the caroling and the Advent worship services, not just in the trees and the Christmas packages and gifts and food and family. The Holy One is in our midst when we understand that the Holy One is born amidst the children who are born with God's image and who, upon their own parents' willingness to take the risk of finding a life and an opportunity that embodies the goodness of who God created them to be, then we have no purpose calling ourselves Christian. This is the story of the Holy One in the Hebrew Scriptures, in the Christian Scriptures, and made known to us in our own life journeys. Jesus is born again and again and again in the very places of oppression, of discrimination, of suffering, of courage to take the risk of leaving that poverty and oppression in order to give opportunity for a new life, new hope, and God's love to be born in our midst. And if we do not get that, then we have no claim in calling ourselves Christians. Our work this day, our work in this Advent and Christmas season, is to make space, to afflict the comfortable, including ourselves, to say we do not have claim on the Holy One, for the Holy One is more with those who are oppressed and who have been abandoned and rejected and who are in danger of their own lives and their children's lives, and who will make known the way that God's love will be born again and again and again. My friends of the Missouri Mid-South Conference, this is our Christmas charge: to make space, that God's love may break open in new, in surprising, in humbling, in courageous ways, that a baby shall lead us into who and whose we have been created to be as creation. As we prepare for the holy services of Christmas Eve, I invite us to take seriously this charge. And I read from Isaiah 45, a charge and a reminder to us of the Holy One and who the Holy One is in our midst and where the Holy One is. For thus says the Lord, who created the heavens, the Lord is God, who formed the earth and made it. The Lord established it. The Lord did not create it a chaos. The Lord formed it to be inhabited. I am the Lord, and there is no other. I did not speak in secret in a land of darkness. I did not say to the offspring of Jacob, seek me in chaos. I, the Lord, speak the truth. I declare what is right. The Lord is in our midst in what may feel like the chaos of oppression, of discrimination, of suffering. The Lord is in our midst. That God will create new life to bring us closer to truth, embodied, lived out, celebrated, died, and resurrected. That we may be God's beloved community, all of us, each of us, being led by a child born in suffering, in danger, in risk. Jakelin Caal Maquin. We say her name this Advent and Christmas season as a reminder that the Holy One is in the midst of those who suffer, who risk, and who are created in God's image, this day and forevermore. Amen.